Chasing the stars, we'll stride into the dawn. Never back down till the battle is won. Face each foe with hearts brave and true, unafraid of the unknown, because I'll face it all with you. Hello, I'm the reviewer. You review it, I review you. This is my partner, Mr. It. We're starting off the new year with Linkara's review of Back to the Future, Who is Marty McFly?
Patreon-sponsored review time again, and here's a franchise we've never talked about in the show before, Back to the Future.
How dare.
Brown invents a time machine using the short-lived DMC DeLorean car, which I think is part of the joke. I've driven a DeLorean before. Even for the few minutes I did so, it was not a comfortable ride at all.
Huh. Most people who talk about what a bad car the DeLorean actually is only bring up the gull-wing doors and the shitty gas mileage.
Anyway, due to shenanigans,
I wouldn't exactly call Shot by Terrorists shenanigans.
it's a solid sci-fi comedy trilogy. Not the hugest on laughs, but lots of memorable lines and moments, with of course universal praise to Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd for their respective performances.
So much so that despite both of them having fairly long film and television careers, these movies are largely what they're best known for. Fortunately, they are fully aware of this and embrace it.
I'm honestly kind of shocked we haven't had a nostalgia-baiting sequel in the last few years where, like, Marty's kids have to travel back to 1985 to fix something from the original movie or whatever.
Honestly, it's kind of a testament to how damn near perfect these movies are. Literally nobody thinks they can improve upon them.
While the mainstream franchise has never gone beyond those three movies, it wasn't the only piece of media for it. Aside from video games of infamous or mixed quality,
I stand by that Telltale's 2010 game is fantastic. If you're a fan of the franchise, you owe it to yourself to play it. Or at least check out the comic adaptation, Citizen Brown.
Originally, Marty McFly was played by actor Eric Stoltz. One of the reasons why he was let go was because he was evidently interpreting the movie much more dramatically and intensely, rather than the mostly comedic and lighthearted mood they wanted it to be.
I heard it was more because he was a nightmare to work with, and they originally wanted Michael J. Fox for the role anyway.
This takes place after all three movies, and we open with Marty rehearsing with his band. Points for trying to make the lyrics and singing their own special font and word balloons, but as with all music and comics, it's hard for me to pay attention to it when I don't actually have any audio accompaniment.
You know, that's a piece of Back to the Future merch we should get at some point. Marty and the Pinheads' debut album.
In any case, the more important thing is that the bandmates stop him when they hear the lyrics, confused about this being what he wrote the previous night. The lyrics were inspired by a camping trip they all took together, but the lyrics mention them taking the bus. However, the others point out that, no, they took Marty's truck down.
Even though this Marty should absolutely remember that. That camping trip would have happened after all the time travel shenanigans. Me 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 me.
Look, this is rock and roll, not a documentary. It doesn't have to be real, but if you're gonna make stuff up, at least make it cooler. Taking the bus. Truly the lamest of transportation methods.
I mean, it's not the worst, but it's hardly the coolest.
Marty eats with Jennifer, his girlfriend, at the diner where she works.
Wonder if it's the same diner from the first movie.
Jennifer was involved in the events of the second movie, so she knows all about the time travel and whatnot.
To say she was involved feels kinda generous given how she was sidelined.
How much of your life can you remember? From when I was small? From whenever. I'm a writer, Marty. We observe and record. Dude, I've been doing this job for 15 years. I sometimes forget what episode I wrote, recorded, and edited last week.
Mood. It's always so weird when friends and fans quote our videos to me and I have zero memory of it.
It's an interesting idea that I think few, if any, time travel stories talk about. The religious implications of altering history. What that means for people's souls. It's mostly because, of course, time travel stories are generally science ones and not religious ones.
Well, that and the fact that any religious time travel stories that do exist are usually more about seeing firsthand how awesome Jesus was.
The Back to the Future universe doesn't seem to ascribe to multiverse theory. One timeline that is altered, with those who have time traveled retaining their memories in existence despite the changes because they've moved outside the bounds of the normal space-time continuum. I actually made a video about this back in 2011 that's no longer available because it was on Blip. The yarn ball theory of time travel.
Please tell me you still have that video saved on a hard drive somewhere. I'd love to see it.
Gallivanting? I was paying attention in class. You might be right. I should be paying more attention to vocabulary lessons rather than time travel shenanigans.
I mean, it's far less interesting, but yeah.
As such, Irving shows what he's been working on. You're trying to tell me you built a time machine out of a Yugo?
Honestly, it would have been funnier if he built the time machine out of a refrigerator like in the original movie script.
Okay, but to be fair, Marty, the Yugo lasted a lot longer on the market than the DeLorean.
True, but as the DeLorean only lasted about 2 years, that's not a high bar to clear.
He then learned that he was actually the Army's second choice. Doc Brown was the first, but he had turned them down.
Why? He probably could have gotten the resources to build the DeLorean without having to deal with terrorists. Sure, he likely wouldn't have gotten away with ripping off the US government either, but still.
Irving believes that since there was already a Marty living in this timeline, then that one will reassert himself and overwrite this Marty.
Check out last year's video for my theory on that.
Our hero wonders why Doc Brown didn't warn him about this. Because this was now a different Dr. Brown who was friends with and employed the other Marty McFly. Why on earth wouldn't he want that one back? Because Doc Brown is not an asshole and has routinely demonstrated that he believes very strongly in ethical usage of time travel and would probably try to figure out a way to save both?
Not to mention that he also befriended this Marty back in 1955.
Did he die in a hail of gunfire? This bothers me. As a scientist and a human being, I admit I've always kind of wanted to get shot to see what it felt like, Marty. For science. I could ask myself about it.
You joke, but honestly, I can see Doc having that kind of scientific curiosity.
The issue ends with Doc Brown saying they'll find Irving, but Marty is then grabbed by duplicates of himself. Across the Martyverse.
Honestly, if they were going that route, it'd be hilarious if one of the Martys grabbing him was Morty.
At least from this altitude, I'll appear to be a simple helicopter. The human mind has a tremendous capacity to ignore that which cannot be.
I guess Beetlejuice's handbook for the recently deceased was onto something.
Fortunately, the DeLorean crashes through the wall and Doc Brown comes out of the car with a friggin' gun! And he zaps the other two Martys. Marty! I found a more efficient way of producing 1.21 gigawatts!
Am I the only one who wants to see a spin-off series where Doc basically becomes this universe's Doctor Who?
You wouldn't happen to have an electromagnet on you by any chance? Why would I? Marty, I don't know what a teenage boy in the 1980s does for fun. Especially because the Game Boy hasn't been invented yet.
No, but the NES has. Though probably not a good thing for this franchise.
I found your photographs on the internet. The what? I've heard of it, Marty! In the future! There's so much porn, Marty! So much porn we've never dreamed of!
Don't forget the most terrifying thing the internet gave us. Internet reviewers.
Irving leaves the two in the care of an entire floor full of Marty and Doc robots.
Me.
Marty, however, figures out that the two of them look after each other while Irving has been all alone, even creating a creepy robot mannequin of his sister to tell him he's so awesome and deserves so many friends.
Though I don't know why he felt the need to label the thing as sister.
Fortunately, 1986 is not the most hostile of eras. Stay away from 2020, Marty! 2016 to it are bad enough, but especially stay away from 2020!
We learned that lesson the hard way, Marty.
Right now we're trying to decide where to send Jules and Vern to college. Clara prefers the 2020s, but I'm partial to the 1960s.
Not everyone can be trusted with unlicensed nuclear reactors. There are some radical scientists I need to go visit in New York soon, Marty.
Yeah, you show 'em, Doc.
Stop and wish, and when you do, who you gonna call?
I think the correct terminology is slime.
This was a fun little review. Not the most hilarious that Linkara has put out, but definitely an interesting one continuing the discussion of philosophical ideas presented in the comic. I'm the reviewer. You review it, I review you.